Hello, everybody. Welcome to our August guest presenter. Alexandra Stockwell will be joining us momentarily. And we are going to be talking about relationships, health, and healing, the dynamics of our relationship on our healing journey, what happens, how our relationships affect us in our health and healing. It's really going to be incredible. I was just speaking with Alexandra a couple hours ago about today's topic. She is a renowned presenter. She was a medical doctor turned relationship coach. So she has so much knowledge on this topic. So go ahead, grab yourself a glass of water, grab yourself some notes, and I am going to post in the Facebook group for everyone to come. We'll see you in just 1 second. Hello. Is that Miss Alexandra?
Yes, you don't see me?
I just was I was just posting on Facebook. Here we go, okay. Here we go. Reminding everyone to come. Oh, I love it. And so 1 second really quick.
Okay.
I'm so happy you're here.
Me too.
I was just right before you came on, I was telling the computer, I was telling everyone who's going to be watching that we were just discussing this a few hours later, and I am over the top excited to hear what you have to say.
Okay, well, I'm happy to share it with you, and that will be the recording if need be.
Yeah, let's give everyone just another minute here in case they come on, and we'll get going, and people always listen to the recording. If I don't post the recording up on time, everyone's like, where's the recording? So I know they will be listening. Okay, so while we're waiting, I would love to just share your bio, if that's okay, Alexandra, and formally introduce you. So You guys, Alexandra Stockwell, as I was saying, used to be a medical doctor. She's now a relationship coach. She goes around the country speaking and is a phenomenal presenter. So she, the formal bio says Alexandra Stockwell, MD, is a physician turned relationship and intimacy expert who's known as the relationship catalyst. As a wife of 23 years and a mother of 4, she believes in the key to passion, fulfillment, intimacy, and success in couples' relationship isn't compromise. It's being unwilling to compromise, because when we both feel free to be themselves and know how to love and be loved for exactly who they are, the relationship is juicy, nourishing, and deeply satisfying. For over 20 years, she has shown men and women how to bring pleasure and purpose into all aspects of life, from the daily grind of running a household to successfully growing a business to creating ecstatic experiences in the bedroom. Alexandra helps build connected and happy families through facilitating healing and transformation for couples. We haven't even talked about this, but I am really intrigued, and I'm sure the theme will come up about the unwillingness to compromise. You can both feel free to be who you are. That is really, that's got me all perked up. So excited to hear more.
I actually, as you know, I prepared something. This isn't a presentation I've ever given anywhere else, and it's for multiple reasons. One of them is that I think the work you do and the work that I do, while on the outside it looks different, in its essence is the same. And I don't think you're a fan of compromise. You're a fan of flexibility and creativity, but you're not a fan of compromise when it comes to people's health. It's not like, well, it's fine if you just want to go to McDonald's for dinner. Right. And I think with health, it's a lot more clear. But that principle, in its own appropriate expression, is true in relationship as well.
I love that. It's so true. And the word that shows up for me, or that I feel when you're talking about that, is integrity, right? Really being in integrity with yourself, with your highest self. What is my integrity with my highest self?
Yes. And your integrity with yourself does not mean being self-centered. This isn't an invitation to narcissism, but to really be in integrity and be open to the truth of the integrity of your partner. That's where compromise doesn't really have a place. It's collaboration. It's not compromise.
Oh, see, I love you. You guys, I was telling you, I love Alexandra. I love the way she talks. Like you're so eloquent with your words. So thank you for being here. I'm so excited.
You're
welcome. And
welcome,
Lisa, for joining.
Let's see. Oh, Lisa. Okay, good. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and start. I had planned to ask a few questions and have some engagement. And so I'm just going to let those hang in there and invite Jenny, Lisa, anyone else who joins, feel free to engage if something isn't clear or you have your own story. Let's make this a little more flexible.
Okay.
Although I'll go ahead.
Okay, awesome.
I'm going to talk about two themes. They're very related, but they're distinct. One is how our health influences our relationships, and the other is how our relationships influence our health. And this is not something that's talked about, but it's super, super important. And anyone who's ever going to listen to this call is going to have a lot of relevant experiences. Now, because you're changing your health. So when you're changing your health, then that's impacting your relationship, and your relationship is impacting the change in your health. I'm going to speak as though you have a partner. It doesn't matter if you're married or not or how long you've been together, but that you have a partner. But everything that I'm saying really applies to any important relationship in your life. It applies to your relationship with your mother, your father, children, whether your children are 3 years old or 40 years old. So I'm going to speak in the context of couples relationships, but please don't get thrown off by that, because this is about every relationship that really matters to you.
So good. And right now, like, as you're saying that, I'm thinking about like the clean eating kid, and I'm thinking about being a parent and children in that relationship, right? And I know Lisa has children, and we've talked about a relationship and health and children. So that's so good. I'm glad you mentioned that. It's awesome.
Yeah, and actually, will you make a note to like bring that up again later, because I'm speaking to the person whose health is changing. But when it comes to the clean eating kid, there's a whole bunch of considerations for a parent who has a child who is sick or sick a lot and basically has extra needs. Being a mother to that kind of a child and learning to be a mother to a child who's healthy and robust, that changes the dynamic a lot too. It's not what I'm focusing on, but I think it'd be very interesting to circle back around to that.
Awesome.
All right. So I was going to start by asking people, and I'm going to do that, and just take a moment for yourself to consider as you're watching this. As your health has changed, if you're in Jenny's program, I know your health has improved in ways you expected and in ways you didn't expect. And whether you're all the way there or beginning that journey, I know that you know your health has changed. So given that, what changes have you noticed in your relationship since joining the program?
So good.
Yeah, and I think there are going to be a whole range of answers, and so I really just want to like sit and saturate in that question. So if you're listening, you have time for your own answers to come to mind. It would be a very interesting journal prompt.
Can I share a little bit too?
Yes, please, go ahead.
And Lisa, would love to hear from you as well. But I know, like, at this point in time, I've been eating this way for so long. My relationship is different. But when I first began eating this way, there was so much resistance from my husband. He didn't understand it. And I was like, I now know this is not the right way to do it, but I was trying to push it on him, like put my agenda on him as well. Like, no, he has type 1 diabetes. I'm like, I want, like, this could help you. And like all the things that why he should be eating this way and why I'm eating this way. And so I'm sure because I pushed, he was super resistant and would be annoyed that I hear this a lot from my clients. Well, I want to go out to dinner and you won't eat at the places I want to go. Or like, you're no fun because you won't drink alcohol anymore. Like a lot of these things of how the person who you were may have shifted slightly in terms of your behaviors and the way you interact with that person due to eating clean or not drinking, or how you handle those social type events. And that was really difficult for us. That was a big thing.
Well, you can't understate that kind of impact, and it's super confusing because in your life it can feel like you have a foot on the gas and a foot on the brake, and it's very complicated. So thank you for sharing that. That's totally relevant.
Yeah.
I want to share 3 stories. One is mild and 2 are kind of extreme. They may still feel familiar to anyone watching, but I expect that at a lower volume they'll feel familiar, and we don't have a lot of language or familiarity discussing these topics, so I'm telling 2 stories which are kind of extreme, like to turn up the volume so you hear the point I want to be making. So the first story is actually a story that Christiane Northrup told in her newsletter in the 90s. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dr. Christiane Northrup, she's an OBGYN and holistic physician, and in many ways, she's certainly the first female alternative physician who became known internationally. And she's done a lot for all of us to be able to talk about alternative health in a fairly casual way. And she used to have these newsletters. This is obviously before social media or internet or anything. They were just like newsletters that came in the mail. And she told the story. At that time, her 2 daughters were in high school or middle school, and she was married to a physician, and she was very focused on her work, and at some point it became important to her to actually explore what it would feel like to enjoy being a woman. And so she had like a very she had the same haircut for all of her children's memory, and she went and got a haircut that it wasn't even that different in length, but it was styled, and it was just lovely. And all of her girlfriends, anytime she went into to get coffee, the barista who knew her, everywhere she went, people gave her such compliments. You look so great. And she was at home, and her daughters, each of them said, I wish you hadn't changed it. And her husband was like, yeah, it's nice. But he obviously didn't respond like her girlfriends. And with this, she was pointing out how even unequivocal improvements can be challenging because they're a change for our loved ones who know us the way we are.
Yes.
Then I want to talk about a boss that I had when I was in my 20s working in a microbiology lab in Annapolis, Maryland. And this boss was this wonderful woman. She actually was beautiful and kind and super smart. She ran this large, high-functioning lab, and she was also very obese. I have no reason to know how much she weighed, but I'm sure it was in the over 300 category. And there were multiple times in her life, and I was witness to one of them, where whatever method she used, she lost 50 pounds, and she was aiming to lose 150, and she was dedicated. Her health was important to her, all of the significant reasons why she'd want to do it. And her husband, who actually is shorter than her and like not specifically slender, but he's not overweight. And every time she lost, as she would head towards a 50-pound weight loss, he would become incredibly nasty. And he wasn't conscious at all, and initially she wasn't conscious. She was just trapped in it. But once this happened, this cycle happened many times, she began to see how once she wasn't what she would describe as overweight and ugly, and she would be heading down to 250 pounds, he would feel threatened.
Mm-hmm.
He would feel threatened. He would feel like he couldn't assert himself in the same way. Their whole dynamic would change from decent enough to just unbearable.
Mm-hmm.
And in the end, it felt better to gain the 50 pounds back than to deal with the criticism and the undermining and the attacks on her self-esteem from her husband. And again, this can sound extreme. It's certainly not a unique story, but I just present that. And then I have another story to share, which is my own, where there's a whole context, but the main thing is that I had a 14 centimeter mass in my abdomen, and I went to many different specialists, starting with a regular OB, GYN, and one thing, and no one knew what it was, and it was unfamiliar, and I ended up with a GYN oncologist. And at this point, I was pretty sick, and I was weak. I didn't know what was going on, and I was used to these doctors who just didn't really know what to do with me. And there was this lovely man in his 60s, this GYN oncologist, and he knew what it was. He gave me answers. And I went with my husband. This was on a Thursday, and I left the office just feeling so grateful. I felt so well taken care of. I felt like I could at last relax. He knew what was going on. And also, he intended to remove my uterus, and I wasn't ready to have my uterus removed. But I just was so grateful for his attention. And then I did a whole bunch of inner work, and I got real with the situation, and I decided I didn't want to lose my uterus. And I went back in and saw him the following Monday, basically having been passive and grateful to be taken care of. That was the main thing, is I was grateful to be taken care of. And then when I went back in on Monday, I was empowered. I was clear on my decisions. I had my internal spine realigned, and I was really clear how I wanted to proceed given the options that he gave me. And when we left, I said to my husband, he was so patronizing, and what an arrogant, old patriarchal, like he was so disrespectful. I felt so unsupported, and like there was no alignment with what I needed. And happily not right away, because I was in a bit of a state. But my husband a little bit later said, you know, Alexandra, he was exactly the same both times. It was me who had changed. That what felt really good and comforting, just 3 days later, felt arrogant and disconnected.
Wow.
So anything that this brings up, anything you want to say with these different stories? Do they feel relevant to the people in your program, Jenny, before I continue?
I'm like, it's so relevant to me. Yes. It is so interesting, the perception, number one, that we have, which can change so quickly, right? Depending on our inner state, our perception, how we're interacting with a situation. And also, I think that one of the things I see a lot with my clients, and I experience as well, like when I first stopped drinking, for example, my friends would be like, who I'd throw dinner parties for, and they were used to coming to my house and having wine and dinner, and I'm like, oh, let me pour you wine. Like, I'm just going to have sparkling water and lime. I was totally fine with it. I did not make a big deal about it. Happy to pour them wine. But they're like, no, I'm not going to drink unless you drink with me. Like they were thinking about, oh, I'm not taking care of myself. Like it made them think about their own stuff. And so they became a little bit defensive, not even on purpose, right? But there was like some shrieking kind of going on there.
Exactly, yes. Hi, Lisa. Did you want to say something?
Hi. Yeah, I was, I can totally relate as far as well, even with what Jenny said, and, my husband's great. I love him. He's in the other room. So, um, but, we struggle, with the whole getting it right and making the good choices. And if he derails, I derail. I don't have my own strength or something. That's another story. But anyway, and then I blame him when it's not really his fault. So, I know that I'm not dumb, but it's easier to blame him. It's his fault, right? So, and then, but anyway, and I have a child, and he's grown adult, 23, and we all try to make good choices, but he's like, we're working toward it. But our relationship, let me tell you about this. Our relationships changed because we're working toward a common goal right now, and we're going to work out, and we have more conversation, and so in that regard, it's like a bonus. I mean, I welcome the I welcome all that's brought us here, because I want a great relationship with my son. And now we had a great relationship, but then he grew up a little bit and went away to college and came back a man. And I struggled with, how do I be a mom to a man child now, and that's living in our house. So, so there's just a lot of different things going on. So, but like I said, and then there's, the friends, right? So in those relationships, it's like, well, I watched somebody do the same thing before I ever even tried, and, to stop eating anything with sugar, and, eating whole foods and everything. And she just said it was inflammation that was bothering her. And she went all the way. She studied nutrition and stuff and what have you. Anyway, she was very radical, and I felt guilty being around her. I we the conversations were weird, because you don't want to say you're trying to lose weight, but they're like, sure you are, you're not doing it, and it's like, I mean, I still have that issue, but it was just, now it's like I've been on all kinds of sides of this, and I see where I it's better to just show and not tell, right, Jenny? So it's like, be the change, right, Jenny? I know.
But I always say, be the change you wish to see in your family, right?
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
That's so good. Well, I do think it's a little bit different with friends than it is with your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't actually, well, let's get into it. Let's keep going and then just look at that. Yeah. So really the important, like the essence, one of the essences here is that if you're in Jenny's program, you are going to transform. And the question is, what's next? And the reason this is such an important topic is because typically, whether it's for weight loss or debilitating symptoms or whatever, the focus is on making those changes. And what I really want to contribute to your program is, okay, have the focus there, but also right soon after, what's next? Because everyone in your life knows you as you used to be. They know you in a particular way. They know you as talking a particular way, looking, responding, feeling, and all of those things change when you become healthy, both because of the physical changes and because of the honoring of yourself that is part of becoming healthy in these ways. How you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, potentially what interests you changes. So yes, a lot of what has been spoken is in terms of the food you eat, but I mean to expand it way beyond that. If, for example, it's hard to sit in an airplane seat, you might newly be interested in travel because it's easier to fly. There are all kinds of ways that you shift, you have energy. It means that you can do more things, or maybe other people respond to you differently. You don't feel as invisible. And so you are changing. But typically, other than appearance, which is not the only thing at all, everyone else is going to think that you're the same. And in fact, even people that you've been married to for 35 years, people, your children you've raised, friends, your parents, whatever, they're going to think you're the same. You're going to be experiencing who you are and your life differently. And it can feel as though you're meeting everyone in your life for the first time. Or, it happens slowly or rapidly, but there is a newness where there was familiarity. And when talking about friends, as Lisa was, and this is true for spouses also, it can be that who you were before and your mindset and your approach to life, those friends were perfect for you then. And they're not anymore. And there could be other people who are more peripheral in your life. And now that you've made these changes, they're much more appealing to spend time with. And what is really a treat and most lovely, but absolutely rare, is someone who is available to grow with you. Someone who loved you the way you were and is available for just as engaging and gratifying a relationship with the way you are now. And one of the ways which can really come up too is that if you've had a person or people in your life who were really comforting to you when you were debilitated, or you had to spend time lying down, or you had needs, that there typically are people who were very comforting during that phase, very helpful and loving, who can now become annoying because it's a difficult transition to see you in your capabilities with the healing.
Yeah.
So what I think is actually the most significant change is when you are healing in the ways that you teach, Jenny, the healing comes simultaneously from the particular actions taken in terms of eating and drinking water and all of those things that you teach, but the healing also comes deeply from learning how to take care of yourself and actually doing it, honoring your own needs, paying attention to how you actually feel, so that rather than being driven by external validation, you're driven by your own sense of what you need, whether it's what you need in terms of quantity at a particular meal, or what you need in terms of having a bubble bath. You may be much more aware of that and honor it a lot more than before. And so when other people, their level of honoring you hasn't grown with your own degree of honoring you, the relationship really can become somewhat intolerable. So I've spelled it out sort of in the negative version because that's the easiest one to provide the contrast and the intellectual understanding. And it's helpful to recognize what's happening at a subtle level when you have the concept. And so I think of like the ultimate version being, if you can't walk, and so your husband needs to carry you everywhere, and now you're able to walk, typically it's very hard for him to find what he's supposed to do. And so the danger is, if your relationships don't evolve, it is a natural, normal response to slow down your healing, or actually to regress back into illness. Because if your husband is used to, in this extreme example, carrying you, and he doesn't know what to do, he has no purpose if you can walk yourself, it is actually common that then we stop walking for the sake of the relationship, because the relationship has been built on that. So the really good news here is that having a fantastic relationship is a learnable skill. I say this in every context. It's not something that's typically taught. We have a real lack of role models, but having a really great relationship, those are learnable skills. And when I talk about it, I talk about conscious partnership because it's intentional. And it's where both people are using the relationship as a vehicle for personal transformation. So we've talked about the personal transformation that comes with health. There's the personal transformation that comes with learning to honor yourself. And there are all kinds of other transformations that can happen. And what's really the key is when both people are using the relationship as a vehicle for personal transformation. And when that happens, then you don't get caught in any of these kinds of really sticky, painful, demeaning situations that I've been talking about. And I'm going to talk about how to do that. But first, I want to really clarify the second theme, which is how our relationships influence our health, which follows directly from everything that I've been saying. Because if you aren't working on your relationship, it will hold back the health and healing. And just as it's no longer optional whether or not you're going to eat well or drink well, it really should not be optional to look the other way or accommodate something in the relationship, because whatever habits you have in your relationship are going to contribute to the quality of your relationship, just like your health habits contribute to your health.
And the habits in our relationship can also contribute to the quality of our health, right? Like Lisa was saying, I've been in the same situation where my mom and I will do this sometimes, like, oh, well, you ate that, so it's okay that I did, right? Like, we're not taking ownership for our own self, being in our own integrity, or vice versa.
Exactly. And at the most global level, if your relationship isn't evolving with your health, then it creates stress. And the stress slows down the healing, makes it more difficult, works against what you're trying to do in healing yourself.
Yeah.
So often, in terms of the relationship influencing your health, most partners are going to consciously be thrilled you're becoming healthier. But unconsciously, they may actually feel terrified. And by unconsciously, I mean, if you say to your partner, are you terrified that I'm healthy and vibrant now? They will say, no, absolutely not, babe. I'm so glad. This is wonderful. I totally support you. But underneath all that comes the question, where do I fit in? And depending on the situation, if he's had dreams and hopes that needed to be put on hold because you've been sick, then it's complicated. It's always complicated to reconnect with dreams that have been buried. If he has a sense of his purpose and his importance, and now you're changing, it brings up, there just are so many different variations. And the thing that I want to say is the most key step in something actionable so that your health has a positive influence on your relationship and your relationship has a positive influence on your health is to cultivate curiosity. When I teach about conscious partnership, I teach 6 essential qualities, and the first one is cultivate curiosity. And so I'm going to make available all 6 qualities. I have something, I'll give you the link, Jenny, but I want to leave people with this understanding of how health influences the relationship and relationship influences health, and also two actionable things. And the one is really to cultivate curiosity in your relationship. And what that means is asking open-ended questions. Asking questions that don't imply a right answer. These are not yes and no questions. They're not multiple choice. They're really open-ended. So you might just say, what was the hardest thing about my being sick? Or what are you most excited about now that I'm getting healthy? Or is there anything that you didn't want to say to me while I was sick, and something that now you'd want me to hear? Or it's time for new dreams for our relationship. Like, I'm going to be able to fully participate. I'm healthy. What do you want to do with the next decade? Because it's looking different than it used to really slow down and prioritize those conversations as much as you prioritize refilling your water bottle when it's empty, because they really have an equivalent impact. And the thing that is so important when asking open-ended questions is that often we can ask the open-ended question, but there is a right answer and a wrong answer. We're okay with certain answers and we're not okay with other answers. And the key to really cultivating curiosity so that you can have connection and collaboration in your relationship in the way that is always a part of a healthy, conscious partnership is to be a yes to whatever the answer is. Now, it can be that when you say, I'm healthy now, we don't need to stay in this ranch house. I know you used to always talk about having a staircase. Like, we could actually move to a home that has a staircase now. Is that something that's still important to you? And then your partner says, yes, but actually I'd like to move to Nicaragua. And you have no intention of leaving your town. Instead of saying, no way, either in your expression or actually verbalizing it, the thing to really be a yes to is that your partner has chosen to share. So you don't have to be a yes to any content, but for the sake of your relationship evolving with your health and creating a gratifying relationship that's really connected, collaborative, and supportive, it's essential that you're a yes to the share. Even if you're not
so powerful.
Right? And
oh my gosh.
It also brings relief and ease, because you don't need to filter what's coming in and get defensive if you don't like the content. You can hate the content and just be like, I'm so glad you told me that. I'm glad to know what's living inside you, because otherwise you don't know what's living inside him or her. And that
is so disconnecting.
So disconnecting, and it's coming out sideways probably.
Yeah.
So the first thing is cultivate curiosity in the way that I said, with open-ended questions, and really being a yes to the fact that there is a response. And let me add that if you're not in the habit of asking open-ended questions in your relationship, know that it could take 8 or 9 times before you get a response. Because again, just like Christiana Northrup's children who liked the old haircut, the habit of not really opening up in that kind of soft, vulnerable way is going to need to be overridden. And so it depends who your partner is and what kind of relationship you have, if that can happen the first time you ask. And if so, that's very unusual. So I want to really convey, don't be discouraged if you ask an open-ended question and get not much.
Yeah.
You can then follow up and say, actually, I'm really interested, and then let it go, but ask again. So that's the first thing. And you ask open-ended questions And this is not a place of parity. Don't expect that your partner's going to ask you as well. If you want them to know something, go ahead and share it without needing to be, a princess who needs to be asked. Just go ahead and share it. And the second thing I want to say that deeply enhances your relationship and therefore your health is to make a point of connecting with your partner each day. If you both work and you're super busy or you're on alternating shifts and it can't be every day, that's fine. But then you go for once or twice a week or whatever works. But ideally, every day you spend time connecting with your partner. You can even set an alarm for 10 minutes, 15 minutes when it becomes really enjoyable, or if you don't have young kids who are staying up too late and need to be put to bed, so you do this too late, then go for half an hour. But make a point of connecting each day with your partner without talking about kids, without talking about logistics, without talking about health symptoms, without talking about what you're going to eat. Really, no agenda other than the things that don't usually come up. They don't have to be important and profound. It can also be humorous. You can reminisce together. But there's this crazy statistic, which is that on average, couples in the United States spend less than 4 minutes a day discussing something other than kids and logistics.
I totally fall into that statistic. I would say on average, not every day.
Yes, of course. And so I'm saying spend time connecting with your partner without discussing kids or logistics. And I'm adding for this audience, and also not discussing health symptoms or healthy eating.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
And so you can talk about movies, you can talk about spiritual experiences, you can, it takes some practice getting into it. But cultivate curiosity and spend time connecting with your partner in this open way. And do that starting as soon as you hear this, because it's not something to wait to begin once you are all completely healthy and have lost all the weight you want and have no symptoms. So do it today, because you will reach those goals more efficiently and your relationship will be juicier.
Okay, so I have a question.
Go ahead.
To me, this feels like, it almost feels like me telling someone who's just eating processed sugar all the time, don't eat processed sugar. Like, what are the steps to get there, right? So we're going to set aside, for example, my husband and I, we both run our own business. We've got 2 little kids. Like he gets home late, we're all over the place. I go to bed early, he stays up late. Like, I feel like we're on the opposite spectrum of so many different things. So we started doing like a once a week date, like at lunchtime, like meeting on Fridays at lunchtime, which has been great. And we've said we want to connect every day, and we've made like a commitment to figure it out, but we haven't figured it out. So if for someone who's like, okay, I'm trying to figure out, I want to follow your advice, what are some stepping stones? So what are some workarounds? Give me some food swaps that aren't food swaps, right? How do we make this happen in my home?
Okay, so the first thing is to really care about it. I'm not questioning that for you. Yeah. But I'm saying, like, if it's not truly important to you, it won't happen. And so you don't have to commit to it for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. Commit to it for a week as research. Mm-hmm. And then decide. I think finding the time in the day is really going to depend on who it is. But, going with what you've just described, maybe, you get up early and your husband sleeps in?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't sleep in really late, but he sleeps in, a little bit later than me. We've got like the little kids, like it's like pack for lunch, school, blah, 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 all that.
Okay, what happens the moment they go to school?
He takes them to school and I work, or I take them to school and I work.
Okay, but you both work at home?
No, my husband runs a construction business.
I see. Okay. Well, Does he drop them at school and then drive to his construction business? What if you do it on the phone?
Oh, that's a good idea. I love that.
And he's going to be driving, but you make a point of not doing email or washing the dishes while you're doing it so that you bring as much attention as you can. And the food swap is like an awesome analogy, because is that ideal? No, that should be like extra fun. Is that a great place to start? Absolutely, because like any other habit, any other intention, you need to like lift 3 pounds before you're gonna bench press 250. So, and the other thing is that, like, I think probably even more so than with food, it is tender and it can be very scary. So even though I'm talking about you, but I mean it more generally, even though you can both want to do that, when you're actually on the phone, because he's dropped the kids off, he calls you and he has 10 minutes until he gets to work, whatever it is, it can feel really awkward not to discuss kids' logistics or health related stuff. And it's really uncomfortable to feel awkward with someone you've been with for however long it's been. It's like that kind of awkwardness, you haven't felt that way since middle school, but it can feel that way again. And so the scheduling is a big issue, but it's actually not the biggest challenge. The bigger challenge is having both of you at the same time have enough courage to go ahead and have that conversation. And that is actually one of the reasons why I gave some suggested questions. Because if in the moment you're not going to discuss the things we already talked about, but you aren't in the groove with what else you're going to talk about, it's actually hard to come up with it. And all of the inertia is going to lead you back into logistics and kids. And there's actually this product, just 1 second, I'm going to get it.
Yeah. For those of you that are watching the replay too, if you haven't already noticed, I'm taking loads of notes in the chat spot, so you can always just like refer to the notes as well.
So there's this is from Amazon. It's called Big Talk.
Okay.
It's a question card game, and it literally, this is not my company. I don't make anything from it. Not that I wouldn't mind making something from it, but like I just bought this as a customer. And it's this deck of questions like, what advice would you ask for from your greatest hero? And what are you most grateful for? What does success mean to you? I'm just picking random ones.
Yeah.
Describe a turning point in your life. In other words, there's scheduling the time to connect and honoring that it is a bit of a stretch to have a new kind of conversation. And so this is one resource that can make that a little smoother.
I mean, to me, that's almost a question in itself, or a talking point, like, is honoring, like being in the awkward conversation and talking about the awkwardness, like honoring, like taking the white elephant out of the room and having a discussion around that even.
Yes, I think that takes being evolved, but to say, can you believe we've been married for 15 years and it feels so awkward to find a topic besides, whatever. And then it goes wherever it goes. Like, yeah, I don't remember my parents ever doing this, or, maybe whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I love that as a topic. And I think that's a little advanced for a lot of people, depending on their relationship.
Awesome. I love it. This
It's
is
a little bit like not knowing whether or not I'm hungry. Like,
yeah,
I understand relationships. I'm on my way, but not there with my health. And I'm having new experiences of like, it's pretty clear if I'm hungry, and it didn't used to be.
Mm-hmm.
And it's equivalent when you're having a conversation with your beloved and no kids, no logistics, no health related stuff. It's like, well, what else is there? But you keep doing it, and there's amazing stuff. And eventually you look forward to those conversations, and somehow miraculously, as you look forward to those conversations, it becomes easier to schedule them.
Oh, I love it. So good. These are incredible tips. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Tell us, okay, so I'm really intrigued to know more about the 6 essential qualities for conscious partnership.
Yeah,
Tell us,
I'm
you
going
said that
to,
there's a handout maybe that we could get. Is
I'm
there
going to
a
just
link?
pull up the link and I'll post it in the chat.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, just here we are. There it is.
Okay, perfect.
And in it, I describe the 6 qualities. I'll just go ahead and name them now. There's cultivate curiosity, embrace honesty, be kind, choose happiness, take responsibility, and seek growth. And I describe a little bit about what each of those looks like in relationship and invite you to play. And I'm happy to dialogue with anybody who's going for it. My email address is in it, because I think these are the keys to a really satisfying relationship where both people can really be who they truly are and learn to have room to accept who your partner truly is. So that's there and available.
This is amazing. And I one of the things that I was hoping we would have a little bit of time to talk to is also how this relates to our own relationship with ourselves. And when you were just listing those 6 qualities, first of all, almost made me cry, because it's like, it's so beautiful. Those are like, if I were to think about the 6 qualities that I most want in life, I think that those would be the 6. Like, I need to say a little bit more, but like every one of those really resonated with my heart. And how I can think like, ooh, I wish my partner was more playful or more blah, 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 like one of those qualities. But really, if I sit and look at it a little bit more, I wish I was more like I'm very serious. I like to have fun, but I get like very serious and ridiculously controlling. And I want to let that go. I haven't let it go. But like, that's a piece. It's like, really, that starts with me shifting, right? Like, it starts with us always. And then there's more room to expand and connect in that way with our significant other, our kids, our friends, etc.
I love what you said. And my own experience in cultivating curiosity and teaching people about cultivating curiosity is that I have become so much more curious about my own experience. I was always interested and did a lot of self-inquiry, but there's an objectivity that comes with cultivating curiosity and being a yes to whatever arises. I've become much more in approval and acceptance of what arises from me, because I can treat it with curiosity, glad to know it's there and revealed, rather than wishing I were different. And there is the opportunity to transform it or align with it, but it all lands very differently when I'm responding with an open-ended curiosity.
And when you are a yes to whatever arises, you guys, drop the mic right there. That is so powerful. I've never thought of it, when you said like also for our partner being a yes to the fact that they're sharing. You don't have to be a yes to the content. I feel like my husband and I have very differing views very often, but yes to him sharing is like a resounding, also makes me want to cry, right? Like, that's so powerful and beautiful. So that is amazing. And being a yes to how we show up, and knowing that it doesn't mean that, I think a lot of people think that if they accept themselves, then they're never going to be able to change. Like, if I accept my weight or my body for what it's at, for example, then my symptoms will never go away, or my weight will never, I'll never lose weight if that's what I want to do, etc. And that's not true. Like you said, we can accept it and we can choose to align differently or transform slightly, but we are accepting, we're giving ourselves a yes. That's so beautiful.
You know, there you are in Wyoming, which in addition to whatever else it is, it's horse country, right?
Oh, yes. Yes.
And so I just learned about this recently. If I don't say it quite right, correct me. But apparently, with the horse whisperer, and there's this whole idea of join up. Oh, I know it from Dr. Angela, so you've heard it there too. She talks about it in her course, and she talks about the horse whisperer, the way he trains horses is by first meeting the horse exactly where the horse is, and out of that calibration, then bringing the horse to wherever you want to bring them for the training. And I know that that is true as a coach when I'm meeting clients, as I'm sure you do too. It is a stretch, but just as significant to be able to do that with your partner. And what you and I are talking about now is to give ourselves that gift too. So when I meet myself, it's like, this is where I am, and I'm right with it. I actually have more capability of then shifting into something else than I do if I'm resisting what the reality currently is.
So beautiful. Oh, I love it. I knew there were going to be the most incredible takeaways, and certainly there were. Thank you so much for sharing with us. I'm super grateful you were here. I know everyone listening in on the recording is super excited and grateful to be here. You guys make sure you grab your handout, I don't know what the right word is, but the 6 essential qualities for conscious partnership. And like Alexandra said, that's so kind of you to say you're open to dialoguing with people. So her email is on that, and feel free to reach out. You guys, every time
I'm in the group now, so if anybody watches and posts something, as long as you tag me, I'd love to hear your experience. If you disagree, if you agree, any ahas, questions, like, it's always richer when we're in conversation.
It's so true. And we've never had anyone in the group, like a presenter, come into the group. So you guys have an amazing opportunity.
Right, because we planned for me to present months before I joined.
We did. Yeah, we really did. So that is so fun. So be sure to ask questions, tag Alexandra in the group, email her if you want to talk privately. Check out her six amazing essential qualities for conscious partnership. Thank you so much. I'm so grateful. You're incredible.
Thank you for having me, Jenny.
Yes, we love you. Mwah. Have a beautiful day.
You
We'll
too.
talk soon. All right. Bye-bye.